So what is the best free C-Log2 LUT for the Canon R5 Mark II? That's the exact question I'm going to answer in this video because Canon doesn't really do a good job explaining which LUTs to use, where to find them, and some of the paid options aren't really that good. So I actually tracked down the free options that were available out there, and they'll be linked in the description box below so you can have them for yourself. So I'm going to be comparing 4 free LUTs. 2 are from the official Canon website and 2 are from different creators here on YouTube. One is Lenz, who is a great colorist. And then of course the other one is from Premiere Gal, who has been on the YouTube game teaching Premiere tutorials for a very long time. And at the end of the video, I'll give my analysis and my perspective on which one of these LUTs is the best for the Canon R5 Mark II, or if you're on the cinema line, the C70, C400, and so on. So with that, let's get started. So for this test, I created a sample frame, which was just here in the studio, as you can see, which just has my standard key light, a edge light for a little bit more contrast and separation. And to help with the colors, I had myself for skin tone reference. And I had a colorful book because I don't have a color checker, but it should just give us a good idea of what the colors might look like. All right, now that you know how the test was conducted, I'm gonna actually show you the footage with each LUT applied over it so you can see the differences, and I'll also have the waveform so you can kind of see what it's doing to the parade in terms of the RGB channels. So with that out of the way, enjoy this short montage. Hopefully you can really see those nuanced differences here on YouTube, but if not, no worries. I'm gonna actually sort of break them down a little bit in further detail right now. And the first thing I wanna actually compare between them is their contrast levels. When I was actually testing these LUTs, I did notice that each one really did have a different level of contrast in the image. So depending on the sort of punchiness and the contrast that you like, some of these LUTs might be better than others. The rank from the most contrasty to least contrasty goes like this. Number 1 is the Canon Standard LUT. Then we have the Canon Color Matrix LUT in second place. And then we have Lenz's in third place. And then sadly, Premiere Gal's has the least contrast in last place. Personally, I do like the added contrast that the official standard Canon LUT provides. But the one that's actually recommended for the R5 Mark II, which is in the Color Matrix folder, I think provides a little more natural and subtle contrast curve, because the standard one's just a hair too punchy for me, personally. But depending on your taste, you might either like it more punchy or you might like the flatter versions. Lenz's is also really close. It's just ever so slightly less contrasty. And Premiere Gal's is quite literally the worst one in my opinion when it comes to the contrast. It just doesn't really look that pleasing to me, and I don't really see myself using the Premiere Gal LUT for the contrast. Now for the colors, this is where the test sort of got interesting for me. Once again, ranking them from my favorite to least, we have in first place the Canon Color Matrix version. Then we have Canon's Standard LUT. And then we have Lenz's, and then once again in last place, Premiere Gal's. The reason I chose the Color Matrix as my preferred colors is that when I was looking at the skin tones and the book, it just looked more natural and accurate to my eye. Now let's move on to comparing their highlight roll-off. This was something that I only noticed because of the way it handled contrast, that sometimes the highlights weren't quite looking as well as I'd like them to. And so when I compare them directly, my favorite is, once again, the Canon Color Matrix LUT. And then in second place is actually Lenz's LUT. And then in third, it's Canon Standard. And then once again in last, sorry Premiere Gal, your LUT's not doing too well. You can really see this if you look on the bright side of my face. I'll have them compared up on screen now. But when you have the Standard, it starts to clip a lot sooner than I'm expecting. It's clearly a lot brighter when compared to the color matrix version or even Eric Lenz's. And I think the way that Premiere Gal's contrast is so flat anyway, I don't really see the highlight roll off, so that's why I put it in last. But I suppose if I'm looking at the clipping highlighted side of the face, it definitely performed better than the standard, and that's just the punchiness that comes with the standard. And so that's sort of to be expected, but if you want a little more pleasing roll off, at least in my opinion, I would probably choose either Eric Lenz's or the Color Matrix LUT from Canon. All right, officially onto my recommendations on which LUT I'm going to use for my projects moving forward. And it's actually very simple. I think I really do prefer the Color Matrix LUT from Canon over any of the other ones. It has my favorite balance of contrast, the highlight roll-off is a little natural, and the colors look pretty spot on, if not ever so slightly less saturated than the standard color Canon LUT. But if you're someone who wants something punchy that comes straight out of the camera with decent saturation, good contrast, but can kind of clip a little bit sooner than expected, the Canon standard LUT does a really good job and I think will work for most people. It just depends on personal preference. And then a really close second for me personally is actually Eric Lenz's LUT. I wasn't expecting to like it as much, but when I compared it to the other LUTs as it pertains to color, the highlight roll off, and the contrast, it does a really close job when compared to the Color Matrix LUT, which is my personal favorite. I just found that the way that LUT handles shadows, you can see here in this comparison, it actually is ever so slightly lifted when compared to the other LUTs. But outside of that, it is very similar to the Canon Color Matrix LUT and does a really good job on all the other tests. So it's really close to being my favorite, but I really do think the Canon official Color Matrix LUT did the best overall. And sadly, the Premiere Gal one was very disappointing because normally her products are really good. I use Premiere Gal's toolkit pretty much to edit every single video of mine and my clients. But for some reason, I think these old LUTs that she has on her website just might be outdated for C-Log 2, I'm assuming. As you can clearly see, it has this weird orange cast. The contrast is very low, so it kind of looks flat, almost looks like it's still in log. But that's sort of my assessment. I really would recommend the Canon official Color Matrix for like the most pleasing one overall, Eric Lenz for a close second, and the Canon standard LUT if you want the most punchiest, ready-to-use image straight out of camera, then use that one. And then I would really stay away from Premiere Gal's. Now that you know which LUT you're going to use for C-Log 2, you can check out this guide on how to install it on the Canon R5 Mark II. Thank you so much for watching all the way until the end. I appreciate every single one of you who do. If there's any other questions or thoughts, you can leave them in the comments section below. And don't forget, if you want the LUTs for yourself, they'll be in the description box as well. I'll see you guys in that next video. Peace.